sort of.
Do it. I'd like to do it.
Okay.
I'd like to do it.
Welcome to my Adobe Illustrator for Noobs live drawing demo. My name is Shelly Rodriguez. I am currently an indie toy designer. I've been working in Adobe Illustrator since 2006, but I kind of resisted it, and I was really stubborn, and would try to draw the same kind of shapes in Photoshop. If that's what you do right now, raise your hand. Good, this is the class for you. So I learned how to use Adobe Illustrator in college, and like I said, I was very resistant against it. But I've been working, since I was in college, I started working as a professional in the games industry, and part of my work was in Adobe Illustrator. I'm going to show you some of my more current pieces to give you an example of what you can eventually do with the program. Today I'm just going to show you really simple line work and fills and maybe gradients if we have time, but I don't want to go too fast. I've given this panel before and people were like, whoa, slow down. So, okay. So this is one of the pieces that I've made recently. And it's just Illustrator shapes, gradients, lots and lots and lots of little shapes. Here's some pony stuff I've done. Here's the key card I made for BronyCon. I'm also on the design staff, which I'm very happy about. Glad to be here, glad to help. And baby Luna. So I showed you all that stuff in Photoshop, like a poop. So here we go. I'm going to just make a new canvas, doesn't matter what size. I'm just using a mouse today because I broke my tablet. So, I guess your screen is bigger than mine. So right here, the basic shapes or tools we can use, mostly we're going to use the pen tool. Also, the rectangle tool here, you can hold down with the mouse and you can get rounded corners, circles, stars. I'm just going to mostly draw with the shape tools and the pen tool. I also love using the pencil tool, but that's easier when you have a tablet. Let's see. I guess I'll draw. I was going to draw a pony for you guys, but I drew a circle. It's a little more difficult with. So good. So basically what I do is I start with the basic vector shapes that are in Illustrator already. Saves you time instead of trying to draw it out. This is not going to be the most perfect pony, but that's okay. So we've got 2 eyes, face. I'm going to switch to the pen tool, which you can either click on the menu here to the left, or you can hit P. So switching there, just hit the P key. So I can draw like that. So when you click, hold it down and drag to make your shape. And then you're going to hold if you don't do this, next step, when you click your next point, it's going to go like this. Oh. Wait a minute. So you want to hold and then drag to your next shape. Just oops. Then you hit Alt so it doesn't do this weird curve thing. So that's the program taking over and drawing curves. Alt, click the point you just made, and then click the next point, hold it down to make a shape. Alt, click, and then you go to the very beginning, click, drag to make your shape. There's some messy little loops in here, so I'm going to go in here. So when you want to edit the curves, hit A. So here's the regular cursor, black, and then A makes it white. So you click the point you want, and then it has these I keep pointing at my monitor screen like you can see it. Ugh. Anyway, so I clicked the point that I wanted, and it puts out these arms. Now you can click on those and drag them around to change your shape. So you can refine your curves that way. If you have any questions, go ahead and make a line right here. I'll answer at any time. No pressure though. Okay, so I click this shape. Okay. Now I'm going to make cute little snaz. Oh, there we go. Oh no. Okay. Don't do that. Okay. No pressure. Okay. So what you can also do once you make a shape you like, you don't have to draw it over and over and over. It is nice to have some variation, but if you're just trying to like quickly make something, you can click on your shape with the regular pointer, hold, which one? Oh gosh, Alt or Option key, and Shift and drag, and it'll make a duplicate shape. So now I'm going to make a tongue. Hello.
Considering that I'm apparently the only one in line here, is there really any advantage towards Illustrator over Photoshop?
Yes. One of the main advantages is you can draw it at any size, and then it'll resize. The vector work will not lose any details. Like when you make a piece in Photoshop, you have to make sure, you have to be very careful at what DPI you make it. Because if you make it at 72 DPI and then you try to print it, then you're going to run into a lot of trouble. You're going to get a really blurry image. With Illustrator work, that doesn't happen. You can resize it to anything you need.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Who is the easiest pony to draw in your opinion?
Easiest pony to draw. Trying to think. Maybe not Rarity. Applejack? Applejack. Okay.
Who's your favorite pony to draw?
My favorite pony to draw. I like drawing the princesses because they have so many details. What's your favorite pony to draw?
My favorite pony to draw is Trixie.
So when using a tablet, what is the best for beginners?
Just get whatever you can afford. It doesn't have to be super fancy. It's not about the tools, it's about how you use them. If you can get one secondhand, I would recommend doing that as long as it's not broken. Wacom Babu tablets are good first tablet. Also, I've heard that Monoprice puts out pretty decent tablets, especially if you're not using a lot of pressure sensitivity, because Illustrator doesn't need that. So I think those start at around $30. Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to know how the design process works for designing things for BronyCon.
Oh, I'm not here to answer that kind of thing. I'm sorry.
Oh. Okay.
I do apologize. I got to get going soon. Do you have a website I can reach you?
I do have a website. It is inkydrop.com.
Okay.
I can type it up here real quick, so you can take a picture if you're interested.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oops, not Z. No Z. Comms.
I had a question. How does
Hi.
Illustrator compare with Corel Draw?
Corel Draw is a really outdated piece of software, and it's also, as far as I know, it's also more like Photoshop.
Okay. They're both vector-based, though.
Corel,
Right. Corel Draw?
I guess you're right. I haven't used
Oh,
that.
okay.
I just use Illustrator.
Okay.
Sorry, I can't be more useful. Okay, so I have the shape I want here. I want to make her iris. So I want it to fit in the same shape from the same perspective. So what I do is I click the shape, I copy it by pressing Command C. I'm using a Mac, so I'm sorry, I don't know the Windows hotkeys. Control, okay. Command C, Control C, then I paste it in place. Then up here in the upper right, you can change the shape without resize. So I can resize it here. I'll show you the advantage of this. I can resize it there, but it's gonna just like go wherever it wants to go. So I undo that. If I do it from here, it'll recenter. So if I make it 45 pixels wide, it'll go like that. That way you can keep things aligned.
How does one improve at drawing? I know you always have to practice, but is there any other technique I can use to improve?
Unfortunately, it is just putting in the hours, but you want to vary your subject matter. You want to draw from life, you want to draw people, you want to draw naked people, you want to go to the zoo, sketch. I know those animals move really fast, but just, even if it's just a scribble, that helps your brain take the information and learn how to put it into a 2D form. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome, you're welcome.
For a lot of my vector work, I use Inkscape, so I was just wondering how Illustrator compares to that.
Illustrator's all I use. I'm sorry, I can't
Okay.
compare them.
All right.
As long as you've got, as long as it's putting out vectors, you're good to go, because you can resize it.
Well, I'm currently in the hole of the sun. Do you need me to come there?
Hi.
Is Illustrator available for tablets?
Like an iPad? Actually, I think they just put out an update for Illustrator CC that you can work on your tablet and then bring it onto your computer. So
Thank you.
yeah. Okay, so we've got the most basic eye ever. I'm also going to draw an ear. Okay. I'm going to duplicate well, before I do that, I'm going to show you how to alter line widths, which is really important, especially for ponies. The line widths add a lot of life to them. So what you do is you click on the stroke or the line that you just made, and then you can go up here to where it says stroke, and you can change it to any width you want. You can make it ridiculously fat or really, really skinny. So for this size image, I probably go to like 8. Okay, so then you change the end caps here. You can also take a shortcut by hitting these width profiles, and they have all sorts of cool like variations within that you can use on your artwork. Hi.
Hi. I was wondering, specifically pertaining to drawing ponies, is there any advice that you can give on how to get down certain proportions? Like, are there any little cheats, or is it just drawing ponies over and over again?
The ponies are really well designed. They have their head, like it's good to keep in mind how many eyes are in their head and how many heads are in their body. Like their body is actually, I think, just about the same width as their head, whereas with the fillies, their head is like 25% bigger than their body. Just things like that. Like just start like taking a ruler and like measuring the width of the head and comparing it to like the length of the legs and the length of the body or the length of the tail, depending on the characters. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
You're welcome. Hi.
Hey, I was just wondering, you were briefly just going over width profiles, but I know you're able to make your own custom ones, but I'm not exactly sure how you're supposed to do that. Do you know how?
Okay, so I just took off the width profile on the face here because I didn't like how it was looking. Because if I go back forward, I'll show you. See how it's like weirdly narrow on one side? That doesn't really work for me. So I'm gonna go, whoops. I'm gonna go back here, back to uniform. And then I'm going to go to, I'm gonna hit shift and I'm gonna click my shape, hit shift and W. And what this does, allows you to change the thickness on the fly of any of any stroke that's still alive. And that's how I do a lot of my work. I don't actually keep width profiles on hand because lighting is always different in each image, and it's good to just like consider your light source mentally. That tool, the W tool, is your friend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So I'm going to show you again how to kind of bring the points down. So if I use that the pre-made stroke, you get the tapered shape, but maybe you want to have a little more variation in there. Oops, there. So I want more thickness here and less here, but I still want this tapered, like that. Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to ask how you add volume to your characters.
Like, I would use shading. I would use a lot of shading and lighting techniques. I'm not really going to cover that today, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. New program, I understand.
Follow me online. I'm going to start putting up tutorials because I've had a lot of people asking me for that. Sorry, I can't be more help today.
It's fine.
So now I'm going to add eyelashes.
Question.
Hi.
Hello. So is there a way to like get one shape from one side to the other perfectly matched?
That's what I'm going to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Show us.
Don't?
Hi, I'm wondering, how do you control the layering of your different shapes?
Oh, that's a good question. So I have the layers menu here. So Illustrator is really interesting because you don't actually have, so you have a layers menu, but when you make new shapes, it just keeps populating the shapes in the same layer. How I was taught to use Illustrator, you can make more layers over here. You can do whatever you need to do, but most of my work is done on like maybe 3 layers because you can, Illustrator has this cool thing where you can group your items. Let me get rid of this. 1 minute. Hey, why are you doing it? There we go. So I can take this ear here, and I can right-click and hit group. And this allows you to keep track of all of your shapes. I can put color information in here, I can put shading information, and it'll all keep it in one blob. So that way I can do this. I can, what's it? And now these are 2 separate shapes. And they would have all the same information. They're independent of each other. And that's how you can kind of keep your work organized as you're working. If you have a background, I would definitely suggest its own layer because once you start doing that stuff, it's gonna get way complicated. Let's see. So I'm just changing the widths. Let's get rid of that width profile. That's better. Okay, so you see how I drew the tongue and now it's sticking out. What you can do with that is you click the big shape behind it for the mouth, you copy it, and paste it in place. Take the stroke off. What I'm going to show you how to do is this is using a clipping mask. So that way the shape stays inside, and you don't have to worry about erasing the shape out or matching the edges. So it's still going to show here, but we can also align the stroke to the outside. Let's resize this. Oh, why are you moving? That's because you're the wrong one. Okay, so I can go back to the W tool and hit my point here. Oops. Okay, so let's take the stroke off of this. I'm going to group this in mirror, and I'm going to start adding some really basic color. It's looking a little funny, huh? Let's fix that. So it's really good to, it's not that it's really good, it's fast to like mirror things, but you want to make sure you can kind of alter them a little bit, because the human eye can pick up on perfect mirroring, and it's a little bit unsettling. So it's good to vary things. It looks more organic. So when items are in groups like this, you can't, and you select them and you want to put color on them, it'll start trying to color everything. What you need to do if you want to change the color of the eye is use the A cursor, click each shape, and then where are my swatches? There they are. You can click here to add a color. You can drag around to get whatever color you desire. But make sure that you have the fill or the stroke selected, because sometimes if you're beginning with Illustrator, it can be really frustrating. You're trying to change the color, but you're on the wrong item. So okay, so let's remove the stroke on these eye shines by making sure the fill is selected and then clicking none on the menu here. Oops, wrong, never mind. Stroke and then none, sorry. There we go. Okay, so let's make her purple. So click her face shape again, click fill, double click on that to bring up the color picker. There we go. So once you have one color selected or figured out, you can do this nifty thing where you use the eyedropper tool, which is the I key. Click, oop, wrong thing. Click the shape. There we go. So the color's all figured out for you. But it's also taking the stroke shape, and I want to keep the stroke shape. Stroke shape, sorry, can't speak. I want to keep the shape, so I use the eyedropper tool. You can click it, double click, and it'll bring up this menu. It gives you a bunch of options. I don't want it to pick up the stroke. So, wait, I'm so confused. Okay, here it is. Okay, it's picking up the stroke. Do appearance, fill, stroke. There. If there are any other questions, feel free to ask them. Creepy clown mouth, let's fix that. Okay, so that stroke is the right color, but it's too thick. So we can go up here and go to the stroke width, pick 3. And then the fill is wrong, so let's go in fill, empty it. There we go, that's cuter. So you can alter the points, or you can click along the stroke when you're in the W tool and like change it up wherever you need. You can also change the thickness by dragging it around. By clicking on the center point. If you just click on the arms and drag, that changes the thickness. Let's see, let's give her a body. Good old circle tool. Okay, so it's only picking up the stroke because on the eyedropper tool, I forgot to click it again. So make sure when you're making a new shape and you want all of the attributes, click appearance. There we go. So I don't want to draw out an entirely new shape for this because I'm lazy. So hit your pen tool. You got the color selected here. I keep pointing at the screen. Okay, so I'm hitting this, I'm making a curve. I'm gonna just making any old shape here. Doesn't really matter what the shape is right down here as long as the outside shape is what you want. Okay, I'm gonna make sure this is aligned to the edge here. Come on. And then I'm gonna do the same thing down here. A little belly. She's like a jelly bean. Okay, so you don't have to close the shape. But what you can do now is select all of your shapes with the black cursor. Go to the bottom square in this menu, the Pathfinder. Click it. and you can merge them all together. You can merge them all together by hitting the very first one on the top row. And there you go, it makes a shape. But we've got this little weird shape inside. What can you do to get rid of that? Just click on your shape with the A cursor. Make sure you select a point. Just delete it, simple. So we've got our jelly bean body. She's been going to the gym lately, you see. We're gonna make sure that we get the stroke information from our face, but it's in front of her face, so how do we get it behind her face? We could put it on a new layer, or we can right-click, arrange, right-click, scroll down to arrange, and then hit send to back. Just like that, it's behind her face. Draw her neck. Okay, so I drew that in the wrong direction. I'm going to show you why. I could, well, I'll just keep going. All right, here we go. So I could have just, I'm going to keep going, I'll show you. So you hit the pen tool, okay, I'm just talking too fast. Let me calm down a little bit. So I have this shape here. I like this shape for the neck, but I didn't start it in the direction I wanted to go. So I click the shape, and then I use the pen tool, and then hit the point where I want to draw from next. So I was unsettled that I'd gone in this direction, so I'm going to use this, and then it connects automatically, and then you can connect it this way. Cool. All right, I'm going to send that to the back as well, and then you can hit Command and one of the brackets, and then bring it up one layer, and you can go down, up a bunch of layers. If an item is grouped, it'll treat that as, it'll just cycle the whole thing. You don't have to worry about the pieces getting lost. So if you've got a really intricate shape, make sure that you're grouping it as you go. Otherwise, you're going to lose details. They're going to get stuck behind things. You're going to get really, really mad. So now we've got her neck here. We can use the stroke tool and narrow that down. Hi.
Hey, so when the send to back thing, I've used that in other programs and it works great. Sometimes it's like shadowed gray and it won't let you click it. Like, do you know why? Does that happen in this program too? What am I doing wrong where it's just not available
to send something to the back?
Yeah, like something, I must be missing a piece where it will not allow me to, the words are there, it's just grayed out and you can't utilize it. Am I in the wrong mode? And it's mostly been in other similar programs, so maybe, my question is Illustrator maybe better and won't do that as much, or does that happen to you too?
I can't answer that question because I'm not really sure about the other programs and exactly where you're getting stuck. I would have to sit down with you.
But in your program, in Illustrator, does that rarely happen?
I haven't noticed it, but it might be because you have something grouped a certain way or it's on a certain layer and you didn't notice it was on a different layer, so you're trying to send it to back, but it can't physically go.
Will you show us at some point how you define, like how you tell it what layer you're on? Did I miss it? I was here, I just maybe didn't hear you say it. Like,
I'm all on one layer right now, so I can separate it out so I can show you.
Like at the end.
I can do it right now.
Great.
Hi.
I don't know like what she means when you know when you have a group and you double click it, then everything that's not part of that group gets gray out.
Oh, this part, like that right here?
Yeah, is that what you're saying? I don't know.
Is that what you're talking about?
I'm not sure why it happens, but I group things together.
Okay, so.
Later I want to set my new thing that I made to the back, but I just can't do it.
Okay, so when you're working in this, it kind of, so when you're working within the group like this, it's kind of like you're opening the box and all of the pieces are separate again. Okay, so if I draw this, it's not in the group. So it's not in the group, but I want to it disappears like that. Is that what you're talking about? Like it's a detail that you want and it's just disappearing behind?
That's happened too, and I understand that.
Okay.
Mostly it's, I want one little thing to go in the back, and it won't go, and it's, the option's gone. So maybe I think it has to do with grouping.
It does have to do with grouping. Okay, Okay, let's draw some hooves. Not square hooves. So you can start your basic, always start with your basic shapes to save yourself some time. What I'm going to do here is get rid of this top point and just add with the pen tool to make the shape I want. Oops. Hi.
How do you rotate shapes?
Okay. Let me finish the shape and I can show you. So you just click with your regular cursor, you just click the shape you want, drag around. Uh-huh.
Hey there, I came in a little late.
No worries.
So, excellent tutorial there with the path work, but what if you own a Wacom tablet and you prefer to draw your lines manually?
I also prefer to draw my lines, but I broke my tablet right before the panel started.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's all good. This is not the first tablet I've broken. But so I learned on a mouse, but you can also use the pen tool. I can't really give a good demonstration, or not pen tool, the pencil tool. I actually prefer to use the pencil tool in Illustrator because it does feel more natural with the tablet or a Cintiq. And you don't need a Cintiq or a tablet, but if you have one and you'd like to use it, you can just draw out a really simple shape, like so. If you have two lines you like, you can grab them, use the Pathfinder to, no, not like that. Use the Command J, and it'll make a shape. And you can do that with any lines or any shapes that are open. So if you drew a circle like that, and you like that for whatever reason, the lump, you could close that and turn it into a shape and apply a stroke and a fill to it. Did that answer your question, or you have another part that I've brought up? I'm more than happy to answer. Okay. So let's draw some back legs. Using that circle tool again. So the nice thing about Illustrator is you can just delete points as you need. So you can get a lot of the overlapping shapes. Come on. There we go. But I don't want to do that. I want to draw. There we go. Okay, so what do I do in this case where I've got the end right here that I want, but then this part is showing on here? What you can do is click this shape and delete the offending. Where am I? The screen is really small. I'm sorry, I'm not used to this screen. You can just do this, but now you've got a shape down here you also don't like. Click it, hide it. So this allows you to draw the vector shapes and more quickly without putting a lot of, like, you don't have to worry about a lot of extra strokes, just some extra strokes. Okay, so I'm going to take this foot. So I double clicked on it so I make sure I'm not selecting any of the other points on the other parts. And altering the curves. And then adding just a little bit extra. I can select all of them at the same time with the A cursor. Now that looks like that. That's not quite right either, so let's go ahead and zoom in here and fix this puppy up. Okay, so the reason it's doing that is because I deleted the side here, if you remember, and then this is now gone, so that doesn't quite work for us. So how do we fix that? We can take the stroke off. Oops, wrong one. Take the stroke off. We can drag this to fit inside of the shape. And we can click on the shape back here and drag those points around to kind of hide this new shape, lack of stroke. Or we can copy, paste, and make sure it's got a stroke on it. And then we can delete it from there. Hi.
All right, so as somebody who does a lot of full color work in Photoshop a lot, Illustrator has always seemed a little intimidating when it comes to doing like realistic paintings and things of that nature. Do you feel that there's anything, do you think there's anything that Photoshop does better than Illustrator?
Color, like adjusting colors. I mean, Photoshop was made for adjusting photos, so like I sometimes take my work from Illustrator and just tweak the colors either for printing, or I wanted a cooler shade, like the whole piece to have a cooler feel. I feel it's much superior for that, so that'll be the last part of my process. I used to paint in Photoshop almost exclusively, especially for work. They're both great programs, they just have different uses, different strengths. You can get some really highly detailed, beautiful gradients in Illustrator though, and I think everyone should give it a chance.
Do you think either program is better suited towards, say, real-life portraits, or do you think they more or less are similar?
Real life, I think you couldn't get a similar look, but you could definitely draw realistically in both programs, no prob. Yeah. Bring this to the front. Oh. I'm so used to clicking on the screen. I'm sorry I keep hitting things. Hi.
So I'm having trouble creating light sources and shadows.
Okay.
And I was wondering, do you have to create them at each shape individually, or can you kind of group it together to add it intelligently?
I wasn't originally planning on covering really detailed light and shade, but I can show you quickly on a sphere. No biggie. Let's do it.
Thank you.
Sphere, not a rectangle. Hi.
How long have you been using Illustrator for?
I've been using it since 2005 or 2006. Not exclusively. I started using it exclusively in 2010. Okay, so we've got our shape here. The quickest way to add shading information, color information is with gradients. The gradient tool is kind of tricky. It's not as easy as it is in Photoshop, so I apologize. It's kind of annoying to use, actually. That's probably the thing I like least. Hi.
Can Illustrator work in 3 dimensions? Can you rotate an entire object? Is that can be done?
I think there are 3D capabilities, but I don't use any of them.
Thank you.
So look up tutorials. There are tutorials for everything on YouTube. I mean, this panel's the way that I use it, so you can do the same task in every one of these programs a million different ways, just the way that you learn it, the things you discover. Like when I was working in games, like my boss would start flipping through my files, and I'd be like, whoa, how did you do that? And he'd be like, oh, just like this. Just a couple clicks on the mouse and the keyboard. Got the same result, but he was faster because he'd been doing it longer than I had, so someone had taught him. Back to the shading question. The easiest way is to start laying gradients on your shapes. You can either use linear, which will give you that result, or radial, which is like a, oh no, I'm in the stroke again, or radial, which will give you that kind of lit up ball shape. So what you can do is you can drag around the light source to kind of fake your lighting without having to paint it in like you would in Photoshop. I wouldn't suggest just slapping it on there like that. You're going to want to drag things around so there isn't such a harsh light or harsh line. You can add lots of colors in here. Oh, make sure your shape is clicked or it won't take effect. So click your shape, click the gradient bar right at the bottom. It's going to just create a color in the middle of the spectrum of where you've clicked. But if you double click it, you can either click on a swatch like that, or you can hit the little palette here and really go in the nitty gritty of changing your colors with RGB values. Let's add another color in there. Oh, it went dead. We've got 5 minutes left. If any of you have questions, now is the time.
When you generally create prints or work for the web, what mode do you tend to do it in, RGB mode or CMYK?
I always do prints in CMYK, RGB for everything web-based. Because sometimes the colors will shift too much if you're trying to print from RGB to like all printers are CMYK. So if you try to print that, it's going to mess up your colors and you're not going to be very happy with the end result. Sometimes it grays it out too much, or the colors that show up on screen just can't be reproduced in real life. So especially like aqua blue, which I know a lot of people are really fond of, myself included. So it's always just like, oh no, it's not glowing anymore.
And one more quick question. I know you demonstrated it earlier, but I wasn't hearing it.
That's fine.
When you want to create a shape within a shape, like a pupil and an iris, how do you keep it centered as you're creating it instead of dragging it from the corner?
Okay, here. So I have, let's do a flat shape. Oh, this is going to be a pretty color combination. So instead of dragging it from the corner, you want to make a new shape, right?
Yeah, but in the center.
So what you could do, you could click it, copy it, paste it in place. I'm going to flip it so, and then what you could do is you go up to the width, and that'll keep it centered. So if you use this menu up here, that'll keep it centered as you change the size.
So back to those very disturbing lines. 2 quick questions.
Okay.
What's your philosophy, or how do you, whenever I'm doing something like that, I'm getting results like that, and it's very frustrating. What do you typically, for getting your lines centered and mashing them up, because you have like two different lines, you're trying to center them up, and then you're fussing with that leg. What are you thinking about trying to do when you're getting all those lines nice and looking pretty, so the leg turns out like looking like a leg?
So a lot of the thicknesses will hide the things that you're really worried about. But it's also just dragging and refining the curve, just being a little bit patient. Also you can, so let's see, I have 2 strokes here. Click your A cursor, drag, and see how this menu popped up here? You can center them, and you can also have them hit the same baseline, so that way they will match. Yeah.
What if you want to, say, like have separate parts of the vector and then reconstruct that in a different program, say like your animation program? How would you like split it up and then know exactly like where to put it back together, or is it just hit and miss?
You can copy and paste from from Illustrator into Flash. But as far as animation, that's like a pipeline question, and I'm not really an animator. I can't give you best practices for that. But
is there like a way where you can like take like say a leg and then save just the leg and then put that in the exact same spot and keep moving all the other parts there, or is it just?
When I was using Flash in work, I remember having to drag the pieces around. I'm not sure that there's a direct one-to-one, like paste in this part to the same canvas in this part on this program. But yeah, I would look up Flash animation from Illustrator, or importing from Illustrator into Flash.
What do you think is the best way to get your art noticed and out there for people to view it and critique it? You recommend a specific website or?
I don't really participate in online forums that much, but I know that they've been really useful for a lot of people. DeviantArt used to be a really good community, but I've heard that it's kind of not so great anymore. I think conceptart.org is still around, and I used to get good feedback there. A lot of my classmates in college used to get really good feedback from conceptart.org. Find some friends that you, like artists' friends, and if you really like their art, ask them if they'll give you a quick critique. Go ahead and email an artist you like. Sometimes they won't reply, sometimes they're too busy, but sometimes they'll answer you back and they'll help you out. Like, hey, like I really enjoy this. Like, this is what you could do to improve. Don't be afraid to talk to people.
All right.
Online or off. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Thank you so much, guys. I hope it was helpful.